AEW Double or Nothing 2021 just passed this week, and I watched this with my non-wrestling fan friend, I should say, and he enjoyed the hell out of the show. Actually, he became, I don't want to say he became a fan, but he is really invested in that Orange Cassidy guy, I tell you. We're going to talk about AEW Double or Nothing 2021, why I think it's possibly the best pay-per-view AEW or best show AEW has ever done, discussing some WWE news, as well as New Japan Pro Wrestling's upcoming Dominion card. All that and more here on the 49th edition and the 2-year anniversary of the Chill Spill podcast. The S is silent, by the way. Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy Tyler Mask, aka Tyler Coon Williams, aka Suplex. That's SOOPLEX on TikTok and SOOPLEXX on Twitch.tv. AKA Tyler Coon Williams, AKA the one who lived. And guys, welcome back to the 49th edition and the 2-year anniversary of the Chill Spill podcast. And that is pill spelled with an S, but it is silent, much like Plana Productions is after I dropped my latest video. I'm just saying, I haven't seen that guy tweeting. He probably was, I don't know. I haven't seen that guy tweeting. I haven't seen him post a new video since that video hit the streets. So, I don't know. Plana might be shaking. Anyway, let me stop. But guys, this is Chill Spill Podcast. Welcome back. I know we probably have some new viewers watching on. I know we have quite a few new subscribers and some people watching the channel now from that Plana Production video. So welcome, guys. Thank you all for coming through to the the Chill Spill podcast, where I talk about wrestling, sometimes other things. It is not a wrestling podcast technically, but every week I find myself talking about wrestling, so I guess it is technically a wrestling podcast. But y'all, this weekend was AEW Double or Nothing 2021, a show which I will say I was amped for, mainly because we were getting crowds back. Let me just say this right off the bat. Double or Nothing did not have really good build up to it. It didn't. I think a lot of the matches on the show were rushed. I think Kenny Omega, Pac, and Orange Cassidy, though an amazing, outstanding match, was a very rushed feud. The Stadium Stampede match made sense because the feud's been going on for a while, but if you ask me and a lot of other wrestling fans, I think the sequence of matches went out of order. I personally would have had Stadium Stampede first and then Blood and Guts, so that was just kind of like weird how that all played out. Several other matches just felt like they kind of were just thrusted on the card, just to be on there. Brian Cage, Heyman Page. That could have been a rematch on Dynamite personally. I felt like you really didn't need necessarily to have Cody versus Anthony Ogogo. I mean, not really. I mean, you didn't need to have that match on there. But, overall, even though the show was not well built up, I came out of it feeling like that was, without a doubt, the best show of the year so far. The best show of the year, possibly the best show AEW's ever put on. I mean, I was thinking back on it, the top two, what are the other two shows AEW has done that I would consider the best they've put out? And I have to think about AEW Double or Nothing 2019, the first show they did, the atmosphere. And I feel like I might have a slight bias towards it because I was actually there. But, the atmosphere of the show, it being the very first, the start of I can't speak. The start of a revolution, and all the matches. It was just such a great show. I think the second would be Revolution, the first, 2020 Revolution. There were so many great matches on that card. Outside of the two, Jake Hager versus Dustin and Chris Statlander versus Nyla Rose, Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin. You had Cody versus MJF, of course, Orange Cassidy versus Pac, and nobody can forget the tag team match between Heyman Page, Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks. That show was just amazing. And if you want to throw another one in there, you could throw in the Brody Lee tribute show. I mean, that's more of an emotional show more than anything. I wouldn't say the show wrestling wise was great. It was just a great tribute show. which I feel like you have to grade on a different scale. So I feel like fans sometimes tend to forget that. But those are the two shows I would say you could put up with Double or Nothing 2021 and be like, okay, we can have a little conversation about it. But 2021 Double or Nothing, bro. I'm going to break it down for you guys of why I think it might have been the best show EW's ever had. So the first match we had on this show was on the pre-show. The buy-in, as they call it. Serena Deeb versus Riho. Now, Riho, the Brock Lesnar of AEW, finally decided to show up for work. Her and Hikarushita, you know, I gotta say this, because AEW has both Shida and Riho signed to the company. It's not like they're freelancers. It's not like, maybe they are freelancing, like a lot of, I don't know. They're not freelancers technically. They're not like, oh, we're working for Stardom, but we're coming to AEW just to do them a favor. No, they're signed to AEW. And then reportedly, they moved to the States like months ago to be in AEW. So not only are they signed to the company, but they live in the United States, yet somehow I find myself wondering where the hell these two women are every single week. I'm not sitting here saying we have to have both of them on every week, because then at some point you'll get annoyed by seeing them. But like, we see them maybe like a few times. I feel like I see Riho a few times a year, honestly. I know COVID kind of messed that up, but even without COVID, I feel like we didn't really see Riho all that much in AEW. I'm talking from 2019 when AEW started to like when, March 2020. We didn't see Riho that much when she was the champion. Then she lost the championship. COVID happened. You didn't see her for months. Then she came back. And then you didn't see her again for another few months. Then she came back. And then you didn't see her for, she came back at the women's tournament. Lost to Serena Deeb. No, she beat Serena Deeb. Then she lost to somebody else. I think it was Thunder Rosa. And then she disappeared again until this show. It's like, bro, I just show up for work. That's all I ask. But anyway, her and Serena Deeb had a kick-ass match early in the year for the first round of the women's tournament. And this match was literally it's hard because I still don't know if I like this match more or the previous match more, which is a great thing because now it's on the same playing field. You could say, oh, this is a very established feud. If they want to have another match, they most certainly can, and no one's going to be like, oh, I'm kind of tired of seeing this. Like, they are having bangers every single time they step into the ring with each other. And this was no different. I will say it was a bit weird. Now, the full crowd reaction to this was awesome. It was so amazing to see a full crowd of people in Daly's place. It really took you back to before COVID happened. It almost made you forget about COVID being a thing, honestly. But Serena Deeb versus Riho, the first thing I noticed during the match was the lighting. Now, they were outside and it was during the day, but the way the camera was angled at them and the way the sun was coming down, it was like the shadows of their faces were facing the camera. So it was just this very weird light fixture throughout the match, which only bugged me a little bit. And I think it bugged me because, as someone who edits videos and responsible for lighting, or responsible for how the show looks, how a match looks, how a video looks, like that bugged me. But that's mostly because, once again, I'm responsible for videos. So if you can get past that, which I'm almost certain you will get past it, the match was just, it was just really good. Do I want to say great? It was really good. Really good, on par with being a great match. The technical prowess of Serena Deeb, Riho, and her nimble self flying all over the place. I liked it a lot. I enjoyed it. Serena Deeb, why can't I speak, bro? What is going on? Serena Deeb did end up getting the win using her Serenity Lock, which it's starting to get over with me. At first, I ain't gonna lie, I didn't like it. It just seemed like a single leg Boston Crab. But when she does the knee slam, which takes me back to the ROH Pure tournament, the first round with Wheeler Yuta and Jonathan Gresham, where he starts slamming Wheeler Yuta's knee across the mat and he taps out. Like, I still don't get that image out of my head. So whenever Serena Deeb does that, I think of Jonathan Gresham. Hope he's doing well. So she does the knee slam, and then she locks in the Serenity Lock. And mind you, this is like a high-angle single-leg Boston Crab, and she's bending her knee all the way back. I mean, her foot is almost touching her damn head. Like, you could almost see Riho making an O in her own body shape. Like, that was kind of crazy. And Riho ended up tapping out. Serena Deeb retained the NWA Women's Championship. And once again, Serena Deeb establishing why she is one of the best wrestlers on the AEW roster. I will not sleep until we get Serena Deeb versus Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship. I will not sleep until that match happens, damn it. I will not. But then we got to the main show. Brian Cage versus Hangman Page opened up the show. And I'll be honest, I was not really too big on this match. Like I said earlier in the stream, like I said earlier on the live stream that I did for Double or Nothing, I was not really too amped going into this match because the first match didn't really do too much for me. And on top of that, I don't really know how these two are going to fare with each other again. Like, if the first match was not really a thing to brag about, how's the second match going to go? Maybe in front of a crowd, they'll go out and they'll do more, but I don't know. And I thought they had a great match. I thought they had a banger of an opener. Now, first things first, the crowd pop for Hangman Page was like alarmingly loud. Like, it was very vocal. The Hangman Page is still very over with the crowd, and that is great. Hangman Page is still one of my favorite wrestlers, if not my favorite wrestler in AEW right now, and to see him get cheered like that just reestablishes why he still should be pushed to that main event level very soon. Now, why they didn't do the match between him and Kenny now, I don't know. Maybe they were still waiting. But he got a very good crowd ovation. Brian Cage came out dressed as the Terminator. He got a pretty okay ovation, but considering he's a heel, that's, you know, understandable. Like I said, man, they had a great match. It was a lot of power moves from Brian Cage. Him and Page having to sell and do all, like, you know, working from ground under, all that kind of good shit. I'm going to skip to the end here. I ain't going to go move by move, blow by blow. That's not how I do reviews. But the end came, and I thought this was very interesting because I was getting pissed at first because when Team Taz came out, I'm like, why did they come out here? It was such a great match. We did not need interference. They come out, and they're trying to distract him and Page, and Brian Cage, he's kind of like, no, get out of here. Like, F off. I got this. And this leads Hangman Page to hitting a buckshot lariat onto Brian Cage and getting the pin. I was not a fan of the distraction finish, even though it backfired. I'm not a fan that Hangman Page won by distraction. He should have won that clean. But I'm not going to, like, you know, knock any points off the match because he won that way. So Hangman Page won the match. I would give that a solid, I would say a solid 7.5 out of 10. It was a nice opening match. So Hangman Page won the match. And afterwards, Ricky Starks, who, you know, was part of the distraction, is Ricky Starks and Hook. They get into the ring, and he starts shoving Ricky, and I'm like, yo, what, like, now, mind you, this isn't the first time we see Brian Cage, you know, showing that, you know, maybe he's a little tired of his faction. A few weeks prior, maybe I would say a month prior, when he was, you know, beefing with beefing with Christian Cage, he seemed like he was kind of despondent of the faction. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And now he's shoving Ricky Starks, and Ricky Starks is like, hey, my neck. Because remember, Ricky has like a, not broken neck, but his neck is injured. So he's like, hey, my neck, don't touch me. So then he turns over to Hook, and he shoves Hook, and I'm like, what the fuck? So Brian Cage looked like we're on the cusp of a babyface turn for him, which is interesting, because Brian Cage is a good heel, and I think he was a good babyface in his time in Impact Wrestling. The periods of time I would check out Impact Wrestling when he was a champion, I thought he was a good babyface then. I think he could definitely get over in that way, and he was definitely a good babyface in Lucha Underground as well. So I don't know what direction they could be going in because Ricky's injured, and it looks like Powerhouse Hobbs might be on his own for a little bit. He's still part of Team Taz, but at least in this show, he was not a part of the, you know, the little breakup thing. Unless maybe they're doing another Brian Cage and Powerhouse Hobbs match in the future. Remind you guys, technically Brian Cage is still holding the FTW Championship despite never defending it. Could this be Brian Cage defending the championship against Powerhouse Hobbs again, and then Powerhouse Hobbs beats him? You know, we are coming up on AEW Rampage in just 2 months. August is in 2 months. FTW Championship ain't being defended. I'm just saying. Rampage is coming around. Maybe they want to incorporate a new championship. Maybe they don't have to do a new championship. Maybe you could just have the FTW Championship be defended and treated like such. I don't know how you're going to, you know, count Brian Cage's reign because he's only defended it like maybe 2 times. But they could do that. You could make him the top guy on Rampage. Make the FTW Championship a main title, or not even a main title. Maybe just like the top mid card title. Keep the top mid card title of TNT on AEW Dynamite, and then keep that top mid card, top tier title for Rampage as the FTW. Just a thought. I have heard this thought thrown around before. It's not my own, unique, authentic one, but I like it. I'm thinking about it more now that I'm kind of fleshing this out in my head. But after this match, we had the Young Bucks defending the AEW Tag Team Championships against Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. This was the match I was most excited for on the show because this match actually had thorough build up to it. Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston. Even though I would say I felt like most of this feud was more or less Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston versus Kenny Omega, and it kind of slowly evolved into Mox and Kingston versus the Young Bucks. It was a well built up feud that made me excited for it. So Mox and Kingston had their entrance, and it was just bruh. Like I thought the Heyman Page entrance was something, but seeing Mox and Kingston come from the backstage area through the crowd and the full, like, it give you a real atmosphere. So for what it's like to have crowds back, if you want that experience of what it's like to be deprived of something and to finally get it back at full capacity, you gotta watch Jon Moxley to Kingston's entrance at this show. It was like no other. No other entrance on this show could compare it to Jon Moxley to Kingston, now to think about it. And it wasn't even anything like super like spectacular. They literally came through the crowd. Moxley's like, throwing shit, showing how excited he is. Eddie Kingston's all like, yeah, look at this guy all excited and whatnot. And the crowd's chanting, Eddie, Eddie. Like, it gets me hyped just thinking about it, bro. The Young Bucks come out in their whack-ass, corny-ass drip. And I've accepted the fact that they do this on purpose. They purposely dress dorky and trashy and clown-like on purpose as part of their heel stick. I understand that now. It still gets the fuck on my nerves. And I don't want to see them on my TV because they're a nice sort of look at. But hey, I guess they're doing their job. Right. Anyway, so Young Bucks come out, and I want to say their jackets were a jab at Seth Rollins because I feel like I've seen Seth Rollins wear a very similar jacket to that. I feel like I've seen him wear a very similar jacket, but I might be tripping because I don't watch SmackDown like that. Anyway, so we get into the match. I thought this match was great. This was definitely like my second or third favorite match of the show. My only nitpick with this match is that I felt like towards the end we're getting to the point of like there being too many kickouts. And this is kind of the trend I see a lot with Young Bucks matches. More so than pay-per-view matches than anything. You go back to Revolution, right? Bucks versus Omega and Page. Great match. Outstanding match. Amazing match. 5-star, 6-star, whatever you want to call it. Great match. But I think you would be lying to yourself if you said there were some points in a match where there were kickouts that shouldn't have been there necessarily. There were a little bit too many kickouts. Now, they got to that 30-minute mark, and it ended there like a nice spot before you got to like, all right, calm down territory. But then you want to go to the Young Bucks versus FTR, and even in that match, I'm like, all right, a little bit too many kickouts going on here, but I'll bear with it. I don't remember their previous tag team match on like a show before that. I think it was maybe All Out. I don't remember who the Young Bucks faced on that show, but they had too many kickouts on that show too. And then on this show, I'm like, all right, I'm liking the kickouts. It's weird seeing them in that aggressor standpoint because usually the Young Bucks are the baby faces in their feuds. But seeing them beat down and segregate, Moxley from Kingston, I said segregate. I mean, technically, but not in that way, of course. But, separate Mox and Kingston from each other and do the beat down on Moxley, like seeing them do that, like, okay, that's interesting. But then they're being dorks again because now you have Matt Jackson doing shaking the ropes like the Ultimate Warrior, doing like Shawn Michaels and all this kind of shit. Like, he was, they're so hateable, man. And they're doing I have to give them credit because they're actually doing a good job making me hate them. Unlike Cody Rhodes, because here's the difference between Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks. With the Young Bucks, I'm supposed to hate them. With Cody Rhodes, I'm not supposed to hate Cody, but I do. So the Young Bucks are actually doing a great job. Cody's not. Anyway, back to my point. So one of my favorite spots of this match was when Moxley got busted from the hard way with the spray can, because now you add blood to it. Now you're getting some sympathy from Moxley. So at one point, Kingston's down on the mat. They're doing a good job of separating the two. And now they're doing super kicks to Moxley. Super kick here from Matt. Super kick there from Nick. Super kick there from Matt. super kick there from Nick, and Moxley's not going down. So then they hit a double super kick, and you're like, ah, shit, that's the end of the match. It's over, because we're like 20 minutes in or whatever. They go for the pin, and Moxley kicks out at 1. And I instantly, it took me right back to the match Revolution between Omega, Hangman Page versus the Young Bucks, when they hit the double super kick onto Omega, and he kicked out at 1. He starts beating his hand on the mat, and the crowd's going ballistic. And it happened here. I mean, he didn't beat his hand on the mat, but he made that face like, oh, he was trying to hulk up. But they kept on going at him, and Moxley made a tag to Kingston, and Kingston got the sweet-ass hot tag, and the crowd was going behind him, and it was so great. Then when Moxley got back into the ring, and he started separating them again, they got him down for the BTE trigger. Now, I was not too big a fan of the finish here either, but they got him down for the BTE trigger, and Moxley doesn't go down from it. And you're like, huh? No, he does go down, but then they kind of rise him back up for a second one, and they doesn't go down. Then they had a third one, and a fourth one, and a fifth one. I'm like, all right, y'all didn't need that. Like, we get the BTE trigger. It's a powerful move. And maybe Moxley kicked out of it, and I'm misremembering it. Maybe he kicked out of it, and I misremembered that move. But the fact that they hit 4 to 5, it's like, I feel like that was a bit overdue. They didn't need to hit that many. They could have just hit a second one, and that could have been it. But hit 4 to 5 on Moxley, and they get him down for the pin, and the Young Bucks retain the AEW Tag Team Championships. As a fan of Moxley and Kingston as a tag team, I was very disappointed that they did not win this match. I was super ready for them to win this match, because Moxley, though he is a main event star, and he will be a main event star for the rest of his AEW career, and Eddie Kingston, you can make an argument that he is a main event star. I think there is a great argument that even if you're a main eventer, you can win the tag team championships in AEW and not feel like a lesser deal. I feel like they were so over and they were so great at their jobs that they could have won the tag team championships and uplifted that championship even more than the Young Bucks holding it now. Like, the AEW tag team division is so vital and so important, and the Young Bucks, I will have to give them a lot of credit. They do a great job at making the tag team division feel like a way bigger deal than most companies will. And I feel like with Moxley and Kingston holding that, you could do more main events with Moxley and Kingston. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Imagine a tag team feud with Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley versus Santana and Ortiz. Like, that would be insane. You could have LAX reunion with Santana, Ortiz, and Kingston, and Moxley's kind of thrown in there, you know. It's getting me excited thinking about it. But I don't know where you go with the Young Bucks, because maybe they could do a rematch. They could do a rematch, but I feel like you could have just had Moxley and Kingston win here and then do the rematch. And then if you want to do the Young Bucks winning again, you could do it there. But my only thing is, where do you go with the Young Bucks after this? Because they've beaten a lot of the tag teams on the roster already. They've beaten the Varsity Blondes. They've beaten the Jurassic Express. They've beaten the AEW Dark teams. Like, they've beaten a lot of guys, a lot of tag teams for the tag team championships. There's not many other tag teams that have beaten left yet. And I go back to Santana Ortiz. Babyface tag team now? Maybe it's time to do that rematch at Fyter Fest or Fight for the Fallen. Maybe it's time. We'll talk about that a bit later, though. Let's get into the Casino Battle Royale. Yeah, 21 men entering in this match. I'm not going to run down every single guy who entered in, went and eliminate. I'm not going to do all that. Let me just summarize by saying this. Christian Cage, first guy in. And somebody in my comments section, Brooklyn Rican 92, give a shout out to him. He's actually a member now. Channel members, you guys can become a channel member today as well, like Brooklyn Rican 92 is. Just press that join button and look at the tiers and select one. Thanks. So Christian Cage comes out number 1, and Brooklyn Rican 92 says, I bet you that he's going to pull an Edge, come in first, and make it all the way to the end. And I'm like, that's a very real possibility, because I had Christian pegged to win, him in the Joker card, and then I'm like, he entered in first. I'm like, there's even a better chance now, because you want to tell that story, oh, Edge did it, now Christian could do an AEW. So we're making our way through the match. Christian's hanging in, spending some of the match outside the ring like Edge did in the Rumble. I'm like, oh boy. So you make your way through. All the guys are coming out. Jungle Boy comes out. Matt Hardy comes out. Nick Comoroto, QT Marshall. All these guys are coming out. You get down to the final 5. Now, mind you, before the final 5 is the Joker card. People are wondering, oh, it's Dan Bryan. Is it Andrade? Who is it going to be? And the Joker card comes out, and it is none other than the Moth himself, Lio Rush. Now, I popped. Not gonna lie. I popped. It was cool to see Lio Rush in AEW. I've seen him in many other places. The guy's making his rounds around town, guys. This guy's been in MLW. He's been in GCW. He's been in a bunch of indie companies. Like, this guy is making NJPW. He's making his way around town. Speaking of NJPW, I saw the report earlier that Lio Rush is reportedly signed to New Japan Pro Wrestling, according to Dave Meltzer. So this isn't official that he's with AEW. He's officially signed to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they loaned him to AEW. He can work dates in AEW. The big news story for me is that he's signed to New Japan, because I'm like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me there's a Negro in New Japan? There's a black man signed to New Japan? Bro, like, this is a conversation that is revolutionary. Nobody's talking about it. Y'all know how long it's been since I've seen melanin on New Japanin? Like, bro, it just doesn't exist. I don't want to say there's a whitewashing Gaijin division over there, but there needed to be some more brown in New Japan town. That's all I have to say about that. And I'm happy to see Lio Rush sign. And I know he couldn't go over there to Japan because of COVID and everything. But now that we're seeing Satoshi Kojima and we're seeing Rocky Romero and Yuji Nagata and Narita, we seeing all those guys come over to Japan, to come over to America. But damn, I'm hoping we see Lio Rush go to Japan very soon, because that junior division, we could use him. I mean, listen, I'm not watching New Japan like that right now, especially because right now it's boring as hell and there's not shit going on. But if Lio Rush takes his ass to Japan next month, I guarantee you I'll be watching New Japan again. I have not seen a black wrestler consistently in New Japan ever. Yes, the last time I can recall seeing a black wrestler in New Japan was Jay Lethal. And that was 2 years ago during the Ring of Honor tour. 2 years ago. And yes, you could say, oh, but what about Kevin Knight? Bro, that's NJPW Strong. That's not New Japan. That would be the same saying, oh, but Lio Rush is in New Japan. Darren Young's in New Japan. Like, no, they're in New Japan Strong. Yes, it's technically New Japan Pro Wrestling, but NJPW Strong is in America, bro. I want to see Lio Rush in Japan on New Japan television with Okada and Tanahashi and Hiromu and Desperado and Cho and Yo and Taichi and Zack. And I want to see him with all those guys, turn up with all those guys, because I know he can. I know he is that great. So I'm happy to see that. And once he gets over to Japan, y'all let me know right the fuck away, because I will be there. Like Michael Jackson says, I'll be there. Please stop. Anyway. So, now, the disappointing part about this is that Lio Rush came in, Joker card, all hype. This motherfucker gets eliminated like 3 minutes later. He didn't even last that long. He made it to the final 6 and was dumped out. I'm like, all right, bro, all right. So, then the final 5 comes down to Matt Hardy, Private Party, who, mind you, is still paired off with Matt Hardy, Christian Cage, and Jungle Boy. Now, Jungle Boy and Christian Cage, they're working together, and they managed to eliminate Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy. So, now the final 3 is Christian Cage, Jungle Boy, and Matt Hardy. And Matt Hardy and Christian Cage are on the same side. The Jungle Boy's on the opposing side. And you're like, oh boy, ECW 2010 is going to team up. I just love saying ECW 2010, man. I just love saying it. So they're going to team up and beat up Jungle Boy. But then Christian Cage turns on Matt Hardy and dumps over the top rope. And now the final 2 is down to Christian Cage and Jungle Boy. And the crowd is firmly behind Jungle Boy. Because I ain't going to lie. Full crowd Christian Cage, I'm like, okay, maybe they'll be split. Maybe they might boo. I knew in the back of my head it's a possibility, but I didn't think they actually would. But there were points where Christian would attempt to dump out Jungle Boy, and the crowd audibly started booing him. And I'm like, oh, they're really behind Jungle Boy because they booing Christian. So Christian tried to dump out, boo. Jungle Boy tries to dump Christian out. Yes. You're like, bro, I was actually really amped to see this because it's like, yes, we're actually seeing people want to see the younger talent get put over. That's great. So Jungle Boy, he's evading, and he gets very close, but then he turns around and he dumps out Christian Cage, and the crowd just breaks into loud cheers. They start singing Jungle Boy's theme song, Baltimora, Tarzan Boy, and it's just this awesome moment. You see Marco Stunt come out, he hugs Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus comes out, he's like embracing him, all this kind of stuff. It's just such a happy moment. Christian Cage, he stands up, he's like all up in Jungle Boy's face, and we're like, oh, come on, Christian, get out of here. But then he brings in him for a hug, and we're like, yeah, friendship, like Mortal Kombat, friendship. It was an awesome moment. But Jungle Boy, he's the winner of the Battle Royal. I'm not at all mad. I'm actually very happy that he won it because Rampage is around the corner, and I'm just saying, this is the time. And Tony Khan said himself, it's a new era. And I fucking hate the term new era because it is so overplayed in pro wrestling. Every fucking year, it's a new era. Every pay-per-view, oh, it's a new era. Oh, this guy debuts. It's a new era. Oh, the Switchblade era. The Attitude era. Bro, shut the fuck up. I get that there's an era and you love the word era so much, but let's calm down. It's just a new time period. It's just a new time. I don't want to hear that word again. But Tony Khan said it's a new era, and AEW rarely if ever uses that term. So I'm like, all right, if TK says it, I'll take that we're going into a new. We are done with the COVID era of AEW. This week on Dynamite is a new era. So, new era. Rampage is around the corner. Jungle Boy versus Kenny Omega. 2 weeks from now, is Jungle Boy win? Hell no, Jungle Boy's not winning that match. But I'll tell you this, Jungle Boy could be the one to take the title off of Miro. Maybe he should be. I think maybe he should be. If he ain't being Kenny, which he won't, he ain't being Kenny. If he don't be Kenny, he should take the title off of Miro and then have him run with that championship for a while. Or you can make him a top star on Rampage. That's how I see it. And the show was rocking and rolling, bro. You had 3 great matches. 3 really good to great matches. And I'm like, man, how can we possibly fuck this up? AEW said, damn, this has been a great show. How can we fuck this up? Oh, I know. Let's throw Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Gogo on this show. So we get Cody Rhodes, the American Dream, Cody Rhodes, Cody Homelander Rhodes, because he tried to think he was dressed up as Captain America, but everybody with the 2 eyes knew he was dressed up as Homelander from fucking The Boys. And if it wasn't Homelander, it was definitely Captain Marvel, which makes sense, because people don't like Captain Marvel. So maybe he was Captain Marvel. Who knows? Anyway, so Captain Marvel Captain Marvel Rhodes comes out. Anthony Gogo, he comes out. And it's so... because you could tell this is where the crowd started to die off. And I'm not trying to be a Cody Rhodes hater here, but this match was just not compelling at all. Like, it was not compelling. It was not that good. Anthony Gogo, I'm not going to sit here and say he's a bad wrestler. I'm not going to say he was a good wrestler either, because from what I saw, he didn't really do all that much. I don't know how good he is. I feel like rating it off this metric, like, he was fine. He did a leapfrog. He did a belly to belly. But then the worst part comes, because we've been building up this one punch. Every time he does the gut punch somebody, they bleed from the mouth, and it's over. Referee calls for the bell. So we're building up to it. He hits the one punch on the Cody Rhodes, and I'm like, oh, that's the end of the match. It should be the end of the match. He hits the punch on the Cody Rhodes, and time passes. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So he goes for the pin onto Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes' hands underneath the bottom rope, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I know Cody didn't kick out. But his hand was under the rope, and the referee had to break the pin. So he basically kicked out of it. And then, not only did Cody not get knocked out, but then he got up. And he continued to wrestle. Then, he had a vertebreaker onto Anthony Gogo, the guy who they're trying to build up. He hits a vertebreaker onto him, and he pins him. And that's it. And you know what? I'm not even that mad, because I saw this shit coming, bro. I've been telling people for the last 2 weeks that Cody's going to beat Anthony Gogo. They're like, no, they're going to put Anthony over. He's a top guy. He could be a top guy. He's a boxer. He's an Olympian. He's like a new face. I'm like, y'all, have y'all not been watching Dynamite for like the last year and a half, bro? Cody beats everybody. Cody has lost 2 times. He's lost to MJF and he's lost to Chris Jericho. And both of those times were in the last 2 years. 2 years. Can you tell me the last time Cody Rhodes lost a match? And don't bring up against Brody Lee because he didn't beat Brody Lee like 2 months later. So don't bring up Brody Lee because he beat Brody Lee. I'm talking about somebody who beat Cody and they didn't get the win back. And don't say Darby because he beat Darby 3 times prior to that. Who has Cody lost to? Nobody. He's beaten Pentagon. He's beaten QT Marshall. I mean, QT didn't really need to go over, but he beat QT Marshall. He beat Darby 3 times. He beat everybody in the TNT fucking Open Challenge when he held the title the first time. Cody Rhodes does not need to be in this position. I said it for the last several months. I will keep saying it. Cody Rhodes is becoming the exact thing he is saying that he is not. Triple H. And I'm not talking 2019, 2017, 2016 likable NXT Triple H. I'm talking about 2002 fucking burying people left and right Triple H. I'm not going to go as far as say, oh, he's burying talent, because I can't honestly say he's burying people. But does he need to win these matches? I dare anybody right now to tell me Cody needed to win this match. He did not. And it showed when he won the match because the crowd, some of them cheered him, but then it was kind of flat. Because it's like, did he need to win? Like, it was a flat cheer for Cody Rhodes. It was not even a good match. It just was unnecessary, bro. It was so unnecessary for this match to happen because it really brought the crowd down. It brought the crowd down. And you think Cody is about to be having a baby soon. I mean, Brandy is. You might as well think Cody's having a baby the way he's been talking about it. But Cody and Brandy having a baby soon. You think, oh, at some point he's going to get sent off to be with Brandy. But no, this motherfucker's still winning. Every week you think, okay, this is the match he's going to lose, and he's going to take more time off, and then he's going to go to be with Brandy. But no, he still wins. So then I ask you, when the fuck is he going to leave? I was actually enjoying myself a few months ago when Cody wasn't on Dynamite. I don't remember what it was for. Maybe it was for injury or something. But there was a period of time for like a month where there was no Cody Rhodes. And it was so refreshing to not have Cody Rhodes on the show. Then he comes back, and what do you know? He keeps on fucking winning. Cody Rhodes, and you might be saying, oh, but no. Here's the thing about Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes has a Superman complex, and that is the worst thing as a pro wrestler, a comic book, a protagonist. As a protagonist in film, cinema, TV, movie, wrestling, video games, comic books, music, anything. There is no worse trait as a protagonist, as a good guy, as a hero, than to have a Superman complex, than to look invulnerable and to look like you can't be beaten. There's nothing worse. Because nobody likes a good guy that looks like he cannot ever be shaken. People love an underdog story. Why do you think people love Rocky so much? Rocky 4, Rocky 3. People love those stories of the guy. And why do you think people love Endgame so much? Avengers Endgame. Because guess what? The heroes lost. The heroes actually lost. They didn't look like they could beat the bad guy for it. And then when they came back in Endgame and they won, it was so fucking awesome. People love those stories. People love comeback stories. Cody doesn't have a comeback story. Where's Cody's Cody doesn't need one because Cody doesn't have one. It doesn't exist. Cody, even when you think Cody Rhodes could have a comeback story, the only time Cody has ever had a true comeback story was against MJF. And he didn't get the win back over MJF. To his credit, he has not gotten the win back over MJF. But that's only because the feud hasn't been touched upon again. When MJF beat Cody, it was like, damn, that's rough. Cody's down in the dumps. What will happen? What can happen? How can Cody Rhodes bounce back from this? Then we got into the TNT Championship tournament. And Cody won that. And I said I didn't think Cody needed to win that tournament. He really did need to win that tournament. But he won it. You're like, all right, cool. Cody's the TNT champion. Then week after week after week after week after week, open challenge after open challenge, he wins. And you're like, great match. But why? Why is he beating all these people? Why is he beating his roster? Then he loses the TNT Championship to Brody Lee. It's like, great, he got squashed. Great. Sympathy. A little bit of sympathy for Cody Rhodes. Takes a month off. He comes back, and then he beats Brody Lee. And it's like, all right, I guess. Then after, he goes right back into doing these challenges where he starts beating people again. It's like, bro, what the fuck? Then you go into his feud with Darby Allin, and you're like, all right, he's beaten Darby Allin 3 times, technically 2, because I know the first time was a time draw. He's beaten Darby Allin 2 times now. Darby better not lose this match. And the crowd was booing Cody during that Darby Allin match. Go watch that match against Cody and Darby at Full Gear. The crowd booed Cody. They were booing him. And when Darby won, it was a great moment. And you're like, all right, this is a good time for Cody Rhodes to slip down the card. Slip into irrelevancy for a bit. Maybe forget about him for a little bit. But then what do you know? Cody Rhodes still finds a way to get back into a feud. Get back into some matches. Take some more time off. Don't know what for. Then he comes back, and he starts feuding with QT Marshall. Takes a little bit of time off, comes back, beats QT Marshall, beats Pentagon. Then we get into this feud with Anthony Gogo, still feuding with the Nightmare family, the Nightmare Factory. And then he beats Anthony Gogo. I ask you, where is this struggle for Cody Rhodes really coming from? He doesn't look like he ever has a problem with these matches with his opponents. The only time he ever looked like he actually struggled was with Brody Lee. And he beat Brody Lee. I just don't get it. I literally just don't get it. Like, either take an infinite amount of time off so I can at least try to miss you, or fucking lose. Please. I'm begging you, Cody. Just have a solid month where you just take L's, bro. It will do you wonders. Now, obviously, the crowd is just, they're just feeding his ego at this point. I'm talking about you. I don't know if it's you specifically, but if you listen to this and you cheer Cody, you are the problem. You are feeding his ego every single week you cheer him. If all of you stopped cheering Cody, if all of you started booing Cody, maybe he might be forced to turn heel. Because if he turns heel, then I have an actual reason to boo him. I shouldn't be booing you if you're a good guy. That means you're not doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong if you're a good guy and I'm booing you. I'm not going to keep talking about it. The Superman complex, it needs to die. Superman at one point died. But guess what? He came back and he won. And he beat Doomsday. And he's been a good guy ever since. And that's why a lot of comic book fans, they don't claim Superman as their favorite. You ask a lot of comic book fans, who do you choose between Superman and Batman? The majority are going to choose Batman. Because Batman can die. Batman can lose. Superman just can't. But I digress. After that match, we get into Miro versus Lance Archer for the TNT Championship. And sadly, because of the Cody match, the crowd wasn't that much into this match. This is where the crowd started to die down a bit. And it sucked because I thought this was a really good match. Well, good. Let me say it was a good match. It was a good hoss match. I was excited for this too. Miro, Lance Archer, 2 big guys. Not often we see big guy versus big guys in North American wrestling, or really wrestling in general, because it's kind of hard to book those type of matches without doing a DQ or count out, which I expected that to happen. I'll be honest, I was expecting a double DQ or a bullshit finish that would be a cop-out so neither man lost. But I'll be damned. Not only did they give us a full match between these 2 men, but they gave us a decisive winner. And I will give AEW a big clap for that, because too many times wrestling companies will be like, we can't have other guy win, but instead of not booking the match, let's do a double DQ. So they actually gave us a decisive winner. Miro got the win with his seated stretch rendition of the Game Overs, the camel clutch. And Lance Archer passed out, and he retained the TNT Championship. So Lance Archer takes another L. So people are probably wondering, oh, what's going on with Lance Archer? As I said with Jungle Boy, Rampage is around the corner. That could be your show to start to really rebuild those guys that aren't really all that popular, guys that maybe have been losing a lot. That's the show to do it. And I know 2 months from now is a long time to, maybe not have Lance Archer on the show, but maybe take him off TV for a while because he keeps on losing. Then when Rampage comes, 2 months ain't going to kill Lance Archer's career. Give him 2 months off. And then Rampage comes, that first episode, he just starts murdering people. And just have him go on a fucking kill streak. And then build up to a Lance Archer AEW Championship match. Because right now, Lance Archer should be contending for shit. He should be contending for a damn thing. He needs to take some time off and figure his shit out. Or keep having him on Dynamite. Keep having him start crushing people. Either one. But right now, Lance Archer is kind of cooled off, so you need to figure that out. But next match we had in here was Hikarushita versus Britt Baker for the AEW Women's Championship. This was a good match. This was not the best Britt Baker match she's had this year. She's had like 2 other great matches outside of this one. Shida, this was not her best match either. And I'm saying it like their match was not good. It really was good. I think part of it was that it was long. Like, it didn't have to be like 17, 18 minutes. And there were some kickouts where I'm like, all right, they didn't need to kick out that move. Like, Shida's finisher, Tamagiri, whatever it's called, the running knee. When she hit onto Britt Baker, she hit it and Baker kicked out. I'm like, oh, got shocking. Like, oh. I think she hit it a second time and she kicked out again. And I'm like, I don't know if you would have kicked out it 2 times. Like, all right. But I feel like we had a lot of moves in here where they did not have to kick out of it. But that might be me. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think that the tide of this match really shifted because for a lot of it, I'm like, okay, this is a good match, but it ain't really do much for me. The tide shifted where Reba tried to clobber Shida in the face with her crutch because Reba's quote unquote injured with her crutch, but she missteps and she actually clobbers Britt Baker in the head. And you're like, oh shit, like this is going to give Shida to win. And for a second, I'm like, Shida might win by roll up and like this might be a double turn. Because the crowd is behind, like, don't get me wrong, the crowd was behind both women. The crowd was, I don't want to say 50-50, I'll say 40-60, like, I'll be saying 30-70. 30 in favor of Shida, 70 in favor of Britt Baker. Like, Britt Baker, though she was a heel, she was over on the show. The crowd just knows just how much Britt Baker has improved, and they give her a lot of credit now. The crowd was behind Britt Baker, and I think after that crutch shot, the crowd just got even more behind her as the match progressed. And when the moment came where Britt Baker countered Shida's, like, because I think Shida hit her with a Falcon Arrow and she kicked out of it. And Britt Baker countered this into a crucifix roll-up. Referee counts to 2, and then she transferred that into the lockjaw. The crowd went berserk. And one of the loudest pops of the night was when Shida tapped out and Britt Baker won the match and became the new AEW Women's Championship. Britt Baker's a star, bro. Britt Baker is a solidified star on this roster as a champion. They could turn her babyface. I personally would keep her the same as she's doing now, which I think is fine. She is a heel. She can remain a heel. She can remain a bad guy. But crowd's behind her, so we'll see what AEW does with that, but we'll see. Then we got into the semi-main event. Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page versus Darby Allin and Sting. Sting came out, full t-shirt on, like a long sleeve t-shirt as he did in his last match with Darby Allin versus Team Taz. I'm like, oh boy. And, going into this match, we all knew it was going to be a singles match, like a regular tag team match. And I was kind of worried. I'm like, oh, well, Sting's 62 years old. How is he going to hold up? It's probably going to be one of those. And exactly what I thought happened, kind of. So pre-match brawl breaks out. Scorpio Sky gets Sting on the ramp, and he suplexes him on the ramp. And I'm like, this is like every tag team pro wrestling trope I've ever seen. One guy lays out the babyface, turns it into a 2-on-1 scenario. Then the babyface comes back, makes an electric tag, gets his moves in, wins the match. I'm like, all right, this is this kind of match. I'll take it. But no. 5 seconds later, 3 seconds later maybe, Sting gets up, walks behind Scorpio Sky like he's unfazed. The crowd's going berserk, by the way, because this dude just got like it was nothing. Sends him off the poker chips ramp. And then there's a goddamn crossbody onto Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky. And I'm like, what the fuck? He takes his shirt off. And I'm like, yo, Sting is on a, like, Sting popped up. I don't know if maybe he went into Kurt Angle's, like, 2010 perk bag or what. But, like, Sting was on a new one that day, bro. Sting was on one. This 62-year-old man went out there and he was going at it like he was 20 years younger. 20 years younger. I swear to God, Sting was in there moving like he wasn't 62 years old. It was unbelievable. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Sting should be a top guy. Like, oh, Sting get... Because this is probably fans are like, oh, Sting get another run, this and that. No. Sting is still 62 years old. He should not be getting any more runs. But getting into the end of this match here, which I thought was also dope. So Scorpio Sky and Sting are in a ring. Scorpio Sky is now on the outside of the ring. on the ramp, on the apron. He goes for his slingshot twisting neckbreaker. He goes, cutter. He goes for that. Sting catches him and hits a Scorpion Death Drop. It was like the most smoothest transition ever, and gets the pin. Sting and Darby Allin win this match. Sting got most of the offense in. He got most of the shine, which, you know what? I understand why. He needs to show that he can still go. I get it. I understand it. I ain't mad at it. I ain't hating on it. Here's what I will say. Sting should not be getting a singles run. Sting should not be going up against anybody for any championship. However, if AEW wanted to do Young Bucks versus Sting and Darby Allin for the tag team championships and say a Fyter Fest, I'm not complaining at all. Not at all. Because Sting showed the hell out in this match. And now if they do that match, I don't think Sting and Darby should win. No, they shouldn't. He shouldn't. If they do, I ain't going to be mad at it, but they shouldn't win. But I would be open to that match happening. I'd be open to it. And that could definitely be an event show. Once again, I would say this is a really good tag team match. Go out of your way. Maybe not go out of your way to watch it, but definitely check it out just to see Sting perform at a 62-year-old level. Like, that was so great, man. But then we got into the co-main event, which should have been a main event, honestly. Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy versus Pac for the AEW World Championship. This was an amazing, outstanding triple threat match. This was the first triple threat in AEW history, and this was just everything. Everything about this match rocked. From Orange Cassidy being the ultimate underdog to Pac being kind of like, you know, the in and out, but, you know, possible contender that could take it at any moment, to Kenny Omega being the aggressor, to being the doubtful, you know, winner in this, all the way up to Don Callis pulling Orange Cassidy out of the ring, and just, oh my God. I don't want to go into too much detail because I'm working on a video that I think everybody's going to like, so I don't want to go into too much detail into this match, but just know this was the best match on the show, and definitely go out of your way to see this match. If I were somebody like Dave Meltzer, who gave matches 5 stars, I would give this match 5 stars. But I'm not. So I will give it a 10 out of 10. That is my rating for this match. 10 out of 10. So I watched this with once again, my friend who is not a wrestling fan. And he loved this match so much that one day later, he was still thinking about it. Because this guy, I showed him Double Enough in 2019, like a week ago, building up to this show. And he knew Orange Cassidy from the Battle Royal. And he knew Kenny Omega from the main event of Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega. But he didn't know Pac at all. Like, he didn't know who Pac was. He didn't know Pac. But when I tell you, this man was so invested in Orange Cassidy in this match. Like, Orange Cassidy pulled everything out of his arsenal in this match. And it was just amazing. Orange Cassidy almost made a new fan here. Like, I wouldn't say my friend is a wrestling fan just yet, but I will say this. If he ever chooses to watch AEW again, you best believe he is definitely an Orange Cassidy fan. He may not be a wrestling fan, but he's an Orange Cassidy fan. So kudos to Orange Cassidy. Sadly, he didn't win the match. Orange Cassidy did end up putting down Kenny Omega with the Orange Crush. He went for the pin, but the referee was laid out because Kenny Omega took the referee out earlier in the match. So out came Aubrey Edwards. And we're like, oh, this could be it. She goes for the pin. 1, 2, but Kenny Omega turns this into a crucifix and gets the 3 count. Much to the biggest disappointment of the entire night. But it was a good disappointment. It wasn't like, oh man, I fucking hated this finish. It was like a god damn it. Like it was a good one. Like you hated the finish because you wanted Orange Cassidy to win, but you loved it because it's like, damn, I wanted Orange Cassidy to win, and I fucking hate Kenny Omega for screwing me over like this. Like it was a damn good match. I loved it. Everybody looked great in this match. Maybe Pac could look, you know what? Even Pac looked great in this match. Everybody came out looking strong. Pac could easily go back into the World Championship division. I'm not going to doubt it. Cassidy, after this match, we got to see Kenny versus Cassidy singles. I don't know when it's going to happen. Maybe Fyter Fest, since that happens, I believe. Hold on. Fyter Fest last year was in July, or was that in June? Fyter Fest 2020. That was the first week of... Okay, so first week of July. What about 2019? 2019. That was the last week of June. Okay, so basically, end of the month would be Fyter Fest. That, I think, is a great time to do a singles between Kenny Omega and Orange Cassidy. And I don't think Orange Cassidy wins there either. But I need to see a singles match between Kenny Omega and Orange Cassidy. It needs to happen. I'm like a wrestling fan. It needs to happen. Wrestling fan love using the word needs, but it needs to happen. After this, AEW revealed a new signing, a coach, and a show analyst for AEW Rampage. And that man is Mark Henry. And the crowd went wild. I went crazy for it. To think that Mark Henry and the Big Show are both signed to AEW is just so like jaw-dropping to me. Mark Henry is responsible for a lot of signings for AEW and WWE. He scouted out both Bianca Belair, Braun Strowman, and Jade Cargill. So he has a good eye for people. He has a good eye for talent. I think he's going to be a great asset. And I can't wait to see what that entails. But we then got to the main event. Stadium Stampede. The Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle. I'm not going to say a lot to you guys. I like the match, but I did not like it any more than I did not like it like more than the first Stadium Stampede. It will not touch the first Stadium Stampede. It just does not. It was a good match. I think what prevented this from being a great match was how they divided the match up. Like, instead of having it like a big all-out brawl where from time to time you really would in between, it was weird because like the first Stadium Stampede did something similar where they had little mini segments where you would have certain guys on certain guys and then, you know, pan to another fight. But the way they did it here, it just, I don't know, there was something very weird and off about it. Like the way they would pan to Wardlow and Jake Hager, then pan to Shawn Spears and Sammy Guevara in the chair room, then pan to Chris Jericho. It was just so, I didn't like it. I didn't like the way they panned to it. But they ended up battling back into the arena. Sammy Guevara, Shawn Spears went into the ring. They had like 2-3 minutes to themselves. Sammy ended it with a 630 senton and got the pin over Shawn Spears to win the match for the Inner Circle. I would have rathered Sammy pin MJF, but I'll take him pinning Shawn Spears. Poor Shawn Spears ain't never going to get shit in AEW. I'm sorry. It don't seem like he's ever going to get shit in AEW. He's part of the Pinnacle to take pins. That seems like his role right now. But the Inner Circle won this match. They are sticking together. This should be the end of the feud, especially considering they've already done like 2 specials, like, you know, 5-on-5 tag team matches. I don't know what else they can do outside of a regular 5-on-5, which seems like a dumb way to end a feud. So this should be the end. Where do you go with the Pinnacle? Easy. MJF goes into the AEW Championship picture. I don't know how soon, because Kenny Omega's the champion. He's a heel. You don't want to do heel versus heel, but soon. And then the Inner Circle, like I said earlier, Santana Ortiz, AEW Tag Team Championship is in their future. For Chris Jericho, I would have him team with Hager. I don't really think Jericho needs to go back into the AEW Championship picture. I don't think it needs to happen. Not ever. Not for a long time, maybe. As far as, well, we have Jake Hager. Sammy Guevara, easily TNT Championship. Very much AEW Championship in like a year or 2. But they all have futures. They all have futures. That was Double or Nothing 2021. I thought it was an outstandingly great show. 9 out of 10 for me. 9.5 without Cody versus Anthony Gogo. I would easily recommend that show to anybody. Anybody. But let's talk a little bit about WWE here before we go into New Japan and tune out. Tom Phillips was recently released by WWE. Sad to see him go because Tom Phillips was I thought he was one of the better announcers they had. Though he was like, you know, a machine. He very much, you know, did what he was told to do on commentary, and he came off as very scripted. He was one of the better presented ones. And I feel like any company he goes to, he has a future. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because I felt like it was worth mentioning. Willie Urbia in AEW is another commentator who got released by AEW. He made some racist sounds on commentary during Sheeta's segment last week, during Spanish commentary. It was he, Alex Abrams, Abrahantes, I believe is his name, Thunder Rosa, and Dasha Fuentes, all on commentary during Sheeta's entrance. And he starts making, I'm not going to reenact them, he starts making, very stereotypical, Asian people. So you know exactly what I mean. He was making those type of gestures about Sheeta. And about a few days later, he was released by Tony Khan, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. New Japan Pro Wrestling. They just announced that they canceled their June 4th show in Oda City Gymnasium due to the state of emergency in Japan, which is questionable, considering that Dominion is on June 7th, and you're already canceling shows, so oof. But they have 3 matches announced for Dominion taking place next Monday. They have El Desperado versus Yo for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. You have Kota Ibushi versus Jeff Cobb, and Kazuchika Okada versus Shingo Takagi for the vacant IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Now, Despy versus Yo, easily. Despy's winning that. Yo ain't winning the championship. I'm sorry. Kota Ibushi versus Jeff Cobb. It can go either way, honestly. I ain't paying attention to the feud, so I don't know who's going to win. I'm going to say Kota Ibushi wins. And then the main event, Okada versus Shingo. This is their 3rd match now. They had 1 match last year in the G1, and Okada won. They had a match this year in New Japan Cup where Shingo won, and now they have a rematch here for the vacant championship. And I would want Shingo to win this match. I think a lot of you want Shingo to win this match. Maybe some of you want Okada to win, but I think Okada wins it, sadly. I think New Japan is probably going to want to get that title back on Okada because they originally were going to do Okada versus Ospreay. And one way you could go back to doing that match without having to do too much work is to put the championship on Okada. And then build up to possibly doing a Ospreay G1 win. And then do the match at Tokyo Dome Wrestle Kingdom 16. That's, I think, where we're headed here. I asked you guys some questions, and you guys gave me some. So I'll answer a few of them here before we tune out. Mason Rollison asked me, could I do a preview for DDT Noah TJPW Cyberfight Festival? So there's a big Japanese show, Cyberfight Festival, happening on June 6th. He wants me to preview it. But the thing is, I don't know most of the wrestlers on the show. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to preview the last 4 matches, because those are the 4 matches of people I know who are in it. The 4 matches are Konosuke Takeshita, who was on AEW Dark a few weeks ago, and Yuki Ueno, who I heard great things about, versus Kaito Kiyomiya and Yoshiki Yamura. I know 3 of the 4 guys in this match, and all of them are extremely talented. So I'm very excited for this match. I'm going to go with Team Takeshita to win this match. Takeshita and Ueno are going to win this match. The next match is for the Princess of Princess title, DDT and TJPW. We have Miyu Yamashita versus Yuka Sakazaki. I think that's going to be a great match. I saw the match they had prior, which happened last year. They had a really great one. I think Yuka gets it back. I think Yuka's going to regain the Princess Championship. Co-main event, the KOD Openweight Championship in DDT. Jun Akiyama versus Harashima. Jun Akiyama is a legend. Very many battles in All Japan in the 90s with Akira Taue and Mitsuhara Misawa and Toshiaki Kawada. And at 50 years old, he's still out here putting out bangers from what I hear. This will be my first time seeing him in this day and age at his age. I don't know who gets the win here. I don't know the feud. I don't know the story. But I'll go with Jun to retain. And then the main event, the GHC Heavyweight Championship representing Pro Wrestling Noah. Kaiji Muto defends against Naomichi Marufuji. I think my Muto retains. That's my predictions for that show. Hopefully you're happy because I like I said, I don't watch these shows, so I don't really know what to say, but there you go. Wei Liang Long asks, if NJPW worked with WWE, what do you think would happen with Stardom? Easy. I think Stardom would stop working with New Japan. Either that or WWE would start a working relationship with Stardom. Because Stardom technically is not working with AEW. If New Japan and WWE started working together, either Stardom would stop working with New Japan, or they would join New Japan to work with WWE, which would be a horrible scenario. But that's what I think would happen. And from the words I saw with Tony Khan talking about New Japan and how New Japan was okay with Tony Khan, talking shit about Nick Khan in WWE, looks like that's not likely, which is a great thing because I did not want to see this New Japan and WWE partnership happen. He also asked, I'll go to Ben Grimshaw instead. Ben Grimshaw asked, could you see AEW running a G1 type tournament on Dynamite and would it work? So I've had this question asked before. Could I see it happening? No. Would it work? They could make it work. The thing about a G1 Climax is that you're talking about upwards of 50 matches. Dynamite is 2 hours long. And at the most, some weeks has 6 to 7 matches. So a G1 Climax usually goes 18 days. You're going to have 18 weeks of a tournament. I don't think it's going to work. You'd either have to cut the tournament in half or by a quarter. And you have to stretch it across Dynamite and Rampage and Dark. And I don't know how that's going to work, bro. I don't think it's going to work out very well. I think they would have to literally do a whole tournament separately of Dynamite, Dark. They would have to do a separate tournament to make that work. The way they did a separate tournament for the women, I think they have to do one for AEW. They may do a match here and there on Dynamite or Rampage, but they would have to do a separate one, honestly. But could they do it? Yes, they could. It would just have to be cut in half. He also asked, who will win the Cinderella tournament and why is it Saya Kamatani? It is going to be Saya Kamatani because she's fucking amazing. But on a real note, the semifinals for the Cinderella tournament will be concluding on the 12th of June, which is sad because the tournament literally started last month. But the semis are Saya Kamatani versus Maika and Himeka versus Unagi Sayaka. I predict it's going to be Saya Kamatani versus Unagi Sayaka with Saya Kamatani winning it. Worst case scenario, we get Himeka versus Himeka because I don't want to see a DDM finals. I really don't. I really, really don't. And lastly, Wei Long asked, if Kota Ibushi joined WWE when he was in a Cruiserweight Classic, would you stop supporting Ibushi or will you start watching WWE? So this is a retrospective question. Would I have stopped watching WWE, stop supporting Ibushi, or would I have started watching WWE like full time, basically? So I have to hop into the mind of 2016 Tyler for a second. In 2016, I was fairly okay with WWE. I loved NXT. I watched it. I would say I watched NXT mostly every week in 2016. Not every week, but mostly every week in 2016. And on top of that, the Raw and SmackDown in the latter half was actually good. Like, actually a good show. So I would say that if Kota Ibushi signed with WWE in 2016, I probably would have watched WWE full time then. Like, that would have pulled me in, and I probably would have started watching WWE all the time. Now, how long would that have lasted? Probably not long. I wouldn't have seen Kota Ibushi re-signing if he did sign a contract with WWE. And the second he left, I would have went with him. But yeah, to answer your question, I wouldn't have stopped supporting Ibushi. I would have started watching WWE more if Ibushi signed. But guys, that was Chill Spill episode 49. What do you guys think? Comment down below. Let ya boy know. Once again, go follow your boy on all the socials above. Twitch.tv/suplex, Patreon.com/TylerMask, Twitter.com/TylerWilliamsYT, YouTube, search Tyler Mask, and TikTok @suplex. I love you guys as always, and I will see you all later for episode 50. Peace out, guys.